This is Project Whiteout, our $1,200 mini ITX white build featuring the brand new Thermaltake Tower 200. This is going to be an absolutely beautiful system that's going to not only look good, but also perform great when it comes to 1080p and 1440p gaming. So let's go ahead and run over the parts that we'll be using here today. The CPU of choice is the Intel Core i5-13500. The reason I chose this CPU is that it's a 14-core part, perfect for gaming, and it comes in at a really great price, around $250. When it comes to the motherboard, we're going to be using the ASRock Z690M ITX AX, which is an absolutely beautiful board that has some nice silver accents, and it was actually not too expensive, so it fit right into the budget that we are trying to hit. So that's the board we'll be using. When it comes to the RAM, we're going to be using the Thermaltake Tough RAM RGB White Edition that runs at 3200 megahertz, and this is a 16 gigabyte kit. So that's going to be perfect for everything that we need. When it comes to storage, we're going to use probably one of my favorite storage drives when it comes to building PCs, which is the Crucial P5 Plus. This drive is incredibly fast, and it's an amazing value right now on sale over on Amazon. So this is a really great value. This is a 1 terabyte variety, so we'll be using that. When it comes to the GPU, we're going to be featuring the GeForce RTX 4060 that has a nice all-white design, and it's going to look amazing in the Thermaltake Tower 200. When it comes to the CPU cooler, we're going to be using Thermaltake's TH240 ARGB Sync Snow Edition CPU cooler. This is an AIO that's all white, and it's going to look amazing once it's built into this case. When it comes to the power supply, this might be just a little overkill, but we're going to be using Thermaltake's Tough Power PF3 850 watt fully modular power supply. Although it is an absolutely beast of a power supply, it's a little overpowered for what we need, but it'll be nice because we'll have plenty of upgrade room if we want to go ahead and upgrade that GPU later on. And lastly, we're going to go ahead and round everything up with some Asia Horse white cable extensions, and everything, as I said before, is going to go in the absolutely beautiful Thermaltake Tower 200. So let's go ahead and get the system built. To get this system built, I always like to start off by placing the motherboard right on its box to act as a build surface. From there, we can then lower down the retention arm on the CPU socket and lift up the socket cover. Then by carefully lowering down the CPU into the socket, we can then lower down the retention mechanism back down, and then that will pop off the socket cover. When you do this, I want to go ahead and let you know that you should always hold on to this socket cover just in case you have any kind of warranty issues with your board in the future. From there, let's install our RAM by first pushing down on the top release, and then we can go ahead and slot both 8GB sticks into place, making sure we listen for the click and the Next, the Crucial P5 Plus drive that we're going to be using is going to go under this M.2 heatsink, which we first need to remove that, and then once we can do that, we can slot in the M.2 drive, and then we can reinstall the heatsink after removing the plastic on the thermal pad to go ahead and make sure we don't have any issues there. Now to go ahead and finish off getting the motherboard prep, we can go ahead and install all the necessary mounting hardware for the Thermaltake AIO that we're going to be installing in the system. With that now complete, the motherboard is now prepped so we can get it installed in the case. With that said, before we actually put it in the case, the first thing we want to do is make sure that we have our IO shield in place. And something that's unusual about this case is that instead of the IO going out of the back, it actually goes out the top because it's actually rotated 90 degrees with how the motherboard is oriented. Now by lowering the motherboard into place, we can now get that screwed in. At this point, I always like to do something I like to call pre-wiring, where I take care of all the front panel connectors so we can get them out of the way ahead of time, including the USB 3.0, 3.2, HD audio, and front panel connectors. With the pre-wiring now done, we can now move on to mounting the radiator, which in this case is actually pretty easy, as there's just 2 screws to go ahead and remove the mount for the AIO that can be screwed directly onto the radiator, and then we can screw in the 2 ARGB fans. From there, because we have it on a bracket, it's super easy to slot into place, and we can just put in the 2 screws to go ahead and make sure it's secure. Now we can go ahead and mount the pump block onto the CPU, but first we need to go ahead and make sure we have some thermal paste on it, and then we can screw it down with these 4 mounting. Now with that installed, let's go ahead and pop in our GPU, which is this absolutely beautiful RTX 4060 from Zotac, which just looks so good in this case. With the GPU now installed, let's go ahead and pre-wire our cable extensions so they're exactly where we want them, even before we have the power supply in place. And I gotta say that these Asia Horse cable extensions are an absolute steal for only about $20 because they just look really great in this build. At this point, we really don't have a ton left besides our power supply, so let's go ahead and get that installed. To do this, we first need to go ahead and install the removable bracket with the 4 included screws, and then we can plug in our CPU, motherboard, and GPU cables into the back of the unit, and then the other side of those cables will actually plug into all of our extensions. Now with just a little bit of cable management work tying up all the loose cables, the system is now completely built, and I gotta say, this is probably one of my favorite systems that I've ever been able to build, as everything just tied together really nicely, and I gotta say that this Thermaltake case was just a dream to work in. With that said, let's go ahead and run some benchmarks to see how well the system actually performs. The first game that we decided to test was Fortnite. We're running at 1080p on Epic, the system was averaging around 81.9 frames per second, which is actually pretty good. Then we ran Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, where it averaged 106 frames per second on Ultra, and then we ran Valorant at 1080p, where the system absolutely killed it, running this game at 345 frames per second. Well together. I love how this system just kind of is a nice showcase of how everything can really be tied together in a PC case, and I'm really happy with how everything turned out. With this said, if you guys want to build this system for yourself, I'll have a link to every single product used in this video, including all the parts, in the video description down below. And if you guys want to see further testing with this system, let me know and I'm happy to do a follow-up benchmark video. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like, subscribe, and if you guys haven't already seen it, go ahead and check out this video here, how we scored a $1,100 discount on a 1-year-old PC. So, we'll see you guys in the next video.